Welcome to the Divorce Diaries podcast, one man's anonymous and live account of if he should get a divorce or stay married. He's been cheated on and he's cheated. Protecting the innocent with changed voice patterns, the omission of names, ages and genders. His authentic journey and account of the daily events of his marriage are helping him sort out his feelings and not get lost in the ups or the downs. New episodes are released daily. Welcome to the Divorce Diaries podcast. Entire seasons are released on Patreon weeks before anywhere else. At Divorce Diaries podcast Patreon page. Link in description. Now for today's episode.
I really noticed some of the tough parts of life that my daughter had been going through living with her mom. Even though my daughter doesn't have alcoholics as parents. She has seen some unhealthy behaviors around alcohol, and she mostly cites what she sees on TV as she sees people kind of like, yeah, whenever someone's drunk, they're always stumbling around. That's what she told me yesterday. And I get that. And my dad, he was a raging alcoholic pretty much. He's a functioning one though. And I didn't have my first drink until I was in my 30s. That was because of the example that I'd seen around alcoholism or drinking, the consumption of alcohol. I had no idea. And one of the things that my daughter had gone through with her mom, she said that their mom had a beverage in a tumbler glass that, you can't see through. It's a tumbler. And my ex, soon to be ex, I call him my ex now, whatever. She's like, hey, do you want to taste this? And my daughter said, sure. Maybe thinking it was tea or thinking it was something else, but not that it was wine. And mind you, my daughter's very young. She's not even 10 yet. And she drank it. Immediately I knew that it was wine, and I was so upset. And she said her mom was smiling, and also, what did you think? And it's just really sad watching the woman that I chose to be my wife, watch her hurt my children. It's very hard. That's one thing that my daughter has been going through. I've recently found out that text messages that I thought I was getting from my daughter, my wife and my other daughter, they were the ones that were sending text messages posing as my youngest daughter. So she always felt that her privacy was being violated. She says that she was shoved into rooms by my daughter, and she was allowed to be bullied. And she showed me text messages of the conversations when she was being bullied by her sister, and she would flee to a bedroom, and with them just living in an apartment, a 2-bedroom with a den, that my wife couldn't even be bothered with getting up, and because her not yet 9 child, what she was doing back there all alone and kind of crying. She sent text messages to her. Come back out so we can finish the movie. We're waiting for you. Don't be that way. Come back out. I understand that kids do what they do with each other. And, but with the toxicity surrounding almost every part of all of my children's lives as it relates to my ex, it's really toxic. And to not show a kid that they are kept, held, loved, something really, really protected. It's just, it was just disgusting to me overall watching the nonsense sort of play out. What else has happened with my daughter? Yeah. Mom's now dating, and mom will just be at the door yelling back at my daughters, "Don't wait up, girls." And I'm sending text messages because, like I said, I'm speaking with my sister-in-law, and these haven't gone public yet. They'll go. All of these episodes will go public after my wife and I are finally divorced. I was advised that I shouldn't put these episodes out at all until that's final. So as to not create more assets to be divided during a marriage. I said, okay, I'll just wait. That's why as I'm recording this one, March 20th, 2022, who knows when everything will be finalized. Hopefully it'll be before the summer, and I'll be able to just start cranking out these episodes. Got a bunch in the can. But yeah, my wife tricking my daughter into drinking wine and then seeing the look on her face. No apologies. My wife getting into a tug of war after my daughter said that I want to go and live with my dad. Physically getting into a tug of war with me and my daughter. And I'm just kind of holding her body, but my wife's yanking her arm, cursing. My daughter is so polluted now. She jumps on my back and she's hitting me on my back and in my head. It's just really rough stuff, really bad. And my wife is at the center of every controversy. I'll take you back down memory lane. My son abruptly moved out in, I believe, August of 2020. And it wasn't until 2 weeks ago that I thought of this, maybe a week ago, that I was telling him, I called back, I said, hey, I've got an HVAC person coming, I just need you to open the door for him and just let me know when you'll be at home, and I'll just kind of tell them to come around the time that you'll be there because I'm kind of out of pocket. Not out of pocket. I'm scheduled for some things pretty much, and I'm obligated the entire day. But if you're going to be there, and I believe he's about 19 at that point, and like, if you're going to be there, I just need you to open the door because your mom should actually be with me. And he's like, well, yeah, I don't think I am. So I've rearranged my stuff. But he said, yeah, and I got to talk to you about something. And that was Tuesday or Wednesday of that week. And he'd moved out on a Saturday. And U-Haul truck's there, friends are there, things like that. And I'm just helping him put things in the truck. And it just hit me last week that for however many weeks or months or even days prior, my wife had already discussed with my son that he was leaving. And my wife and I were sleeping in the same bed, laying our head on the pillow, doing all of that. And she didn't tell me that my son was going to move out. She is the type of person that is okay having information and not sharing it. That's my soon-to-be ex. This is my son that lives under my roof, that I'm paying for, that I'm providing for, and that I'm feeding. And also my wife, I'm paying for you, providing for you, and feeding you as well. And our son has such a problem with me, or you, or this house, or whatever. And you can, with a clear conscience and calm soul, you can lay down next to me, just with lies. See, when I was in my early 20s, I had an indiscretion with another woman, well, an ex-girlfriend of mine since before we got married. But and when things got rough, I reached out to someone familiar, or she reached out to me, or something. I totally forget. But we reconnect, and things, went to places that they should not have. And I had an affair. But my wife has so many different men that have been in and around her life, from before we were together to when we were initially together to this day. There's just so many different people. There's no, I went back to this familiar person or whatever. It's someone that's proximal and to her, and that she allows time, because we all understand how many times women are approached by men, how often they're shot at. Guys are shooting their shot with the ladies often. And when you're pretty, like my wife is, a lot of guys shoot their shots at you. When you don't understand that, hey, these guys, they don't know you. They do kind of just want you for sex. Hence the person that you were having an affair with at your job that was also having sex with your best friend that you worked with. The best friend tells you, hey, you should talk to this guy because I talked to him about my problems. when I'm having problems with my fiance, I talk to him, and he's fucking her, and then he's fucking you now because you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and you're just okay with this. You're okay with these lies. My wife doesn't know that there's so many things that I know. Right now, my daughter, she's been the one that's living with me now, because she really is understanding all the things my wife has done. And this isn't anything that I'm saying about what's been happening with me and my wife. My daughter is so, right now, she wants nothing to do with her mother. And as bad as and as wrong as it may sound and seem, I'm not going to help bring them back together like I always had in the past. In the past, when my wife would do something flagrant and egregious and horrible like she's doing right now, I would talk with her a lot every day. It was heavy on my mind, and I would push my kids to go and talk with my wife, which that in and of itself, I didn't really understand how much of a red flag that was. I wasn't pushing I knew on some level that I can't come to my wife and tell her to go and talk to the kids and be reasonable. I knew I had to always talk to my wife privately and come to my children and tell them to go to my wife. Because one, I don't have dominion over my wife, and I wasn't trying to exercise any dominion over her. But I must have known on some deep level that my wife is not going to listen to me or reason when I suggest something like mending things with her children. She's going to scoff at such an idea. So now understanding that, I'm like, oh, looking back, wow, she never really went to them. They always came to her based on me telling them after they would come to me and say, I'm done with mom. That's it. Because I'm the one that's always talking about it. I'm the one that always wants to solve problems or at least get to understand the problem. And hearing my children say that they never want to speak to their mom again, I'm like, no. That can't happen. She's your mom. She's the only one you have. And I would send the kids to speak with her. And she would hit the kids with all the most emotionally scarring responses ever. Like, when my son wanted to tell my wife that when she went out and she went on a day shopping trip with me and my son, it was such a weird thing. And she picked up this little tight pink dress. Neither of us knew that she purchased it, but she said, "Yeah, I have the dress that I need." But later that night, she got prepared to go out, and she came downstairs in this little tight dress, and I'm like, "Whoa, where are you going looking like that?" "I'm going out with the girls night. We're going to go have fun, blah, blah, blah. Get off my back." She's going out to meet her boyfriend, and she stayed out until 6 the next morning. They got a hotel room just on a Saturday. Boom, didn't come back till Sunday morning. And lots of calling, lots of tears from me, worrying about her, doing a lot of Find My iPhone, playing the sound and alerts on her phone until, it was no longer reachable or something like that. She must have turned it off. And I didn't realize what she was doing at that time. And she just lied through the entire thing. And still, it wasn't, it was 2 months later when I finally looked at enough phone records to match up a name to a phone number and do some searches online and all this other stuff, and then come up with who this person is that's with my wife. And then she finally copped to it in therapy. After I pulled out the packet of phone records, that's when she copped to it. So that's the person that my wife is. And there's no way in hell, so I'm serious, there's no way in hell I'm going to try to help anyone mend a relationship with my wife, recognizing and accepting the person that she is. I'm not going to say anything like, oh, my children are better off without her. I'll never say that. I just know that whatever damage and trauma my wife has in her life, until she deals with that, just like me, just like I'm on my own trying to find and develop relationships with my children, I know that I'm going to be finding and developing relationships with my children, if it's at all possible, despite all the efforts that my wife will be putting in to hurt us having a relationship. I know that. And I'm going to have to choose how long I'm going to fight, how long I'll continue to fight for a relationship with my children, if it will be the correct answer. And let's be real. If it will be the politically correct answer, I will fight forever until my kids and I are on better terms. I can tell you unequivocally, I will not fight forever. That would be foolish. I will say this, I will never close the door. On my side, I will never close it. I will never block one of my children. I mean, obviously that could change if something changes. If my very wayward son does something that's unforgivable to someone that I love or me, then yes, I won't ever speak to him again. And the door will be closed on my side. But as long as it's just, as long as it stays at the, I hate you, Dad, will always hate you, Dad, and I never want you to be a part of my life, Dad, I will never close the door. I will extend olive branches of certain kinds at certain times, and it's just going to be maybe words here or there. Yeah, the hate that my wife has inspired in all of my children toward each other, themselves, her, and me, most specifically, I'm the agreed upon villain. Which before I thought we were all sort of in something together, but I always felt like, I'm like, whoa, what's happening? And I've always felt like something was happening to me. Something was happening to me. And I was always told, it's because you're so selfish, you only think about yourself. And I'm like, I got to get this figured out because I am selfish. You're right. I am only talking about myself. I am only talking about me. Why is that? And I'm like, I don't have a reason. I am the narcissist that she's basically defining me as and describing me as. I am. There's no getting around it. I'm a piece of shit narcissist. But I was saying I'm being attacked because I didn't understand my adversary. I didn't understand that I had an adversary. I just always felt like, hey, I'm being put upon. I'm being attacked. Yes, when you're laying in the bed with someone that is having an affair at work in your face and saying, hey, we will, the guy that you caught me with, she didn't say caught, but I caught her, but the guy that you saw me with, he's just a friend and he's willing to sit down and talk to you and tell you that we're not having a relationship. And I'm like, wait, what? So had I been stupid enough to do that, my wife and I would have sat down across from my wife and her affair and her lover, and they would have told me, hey, idiot, we're not having sex, but we did have sex earlier today. We're not having sex at this moment, but we are having sex. And that would have been nuts. And that is the darkness that my wife is. So, and I'm saying this just for context. She's equally as dark as a mother. She's equally as dark as a wife. I've watched her been equally as dark as a sister. And even now, she's in a group chat with her sister, who she's disrespected so badly, called her a bad mother. She didn't say the words, you are a bad mother, but she said, and I quote, any parent that lets their children listen to Cardi B is a bad parent. Her sister lets her children listen to Cardi B. So, done. You called her a bad, and she said this to her face. So it's just so amazing and incredible, the things that my wife justifies as right. And it's no wonder to me now why my son, he decided to stop speaking to her, only calls her for what he wants, which is right on his part. I don't condone using someone, but he's trying to compartmentalize the use, quote unquote, of his mother. He does not want a relationship, but he wants the use of her. With me, he kind of did want a relationship, but the use, and it was just a little more nebulous with he and I, because I'm literally the only person he had in his corner that was trying to help him, like for real help him, not enable him. And having such a heavy contrast between an enabling parent and a helpful parent, it's probably hard. It's probably hard. And that's the type of woman that my ex is. And so there's almost no room in us talking about my wife did this thing And we couldn't get past that. There's an irreconcilable difference there. And I cheated in my early 20s, so it's kind of hard to get through. And I also did this thing later, and I did that thing later. The consistent and perpetual lies, and now the handling that she's doing of the divorce. She's stealing things. She's requesting to steal. I'm going to say things that she's not entitled to. And I'm not mad at these things because I'm like, oh, this is exactly what a person like her, this is exactly what she would do. She would take something that's not entitled to her, just like she would know that my son doesn't want to live with us anymore, or he's going to move out. She would know that days, weeks, even minutes before. She would know all that, and she wouldn't say anything to me. And I'm her husband, his father. Yep. That is not a person that you want to build a family with. That is not a person that you want to talk to, and that is not a person you want to know. Not that woman. So I'm happily, even though it's sad, because sometimes I see little love notes written from her in a book that she gave me as a gift that I still use as a journal. I still have a lot of photos saved on my phone, which I'm going to have to go in and purge all of those that just have the two of us in there. But it's crazy. It's just like going to be a big void in my life, in my photo history. Like, oh, you know, this will be like 17 years pretty much that we would have been married, and be celebrating our 18th anniversary this year.
Wow, that was the Divorce Diaries podcast. The Daily Saga will continue tomorrow. The full season's episodes are on Patreon now. Subscribe for early access. Click the Patreon link in the description. Hopefully these entries help our anonymous recorder as a form of his own personal therapy. That's his hope and his intention. Will these recordings of life's curveballs lead this family to the best resolution in the end? We'll keep listening. New episodes are released daily on all podcast players, but all episodes are available on Patreon at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Until next time.